My lookbook is on Desperado, and my name is John Stoss. Um, so the overall feel of Desperado is vengeful. It's very dangerous. It's very dark. It's not, I mean, it's not dark in the sense that, such as vampires and supernatural and such, but dark in the sense of threatening via drug cartels and dangerous men with guns and knives. The entire movie, there's not a single police officer, so it's very lawless um, and very rock and roll. The locations in the movie are the Tarasco Bar, Butcho's Ranch, Rundown Motel, the streets of a Mexican border town, hospital, church, Carolina's bookstore, and her bedroom as well. The first location would be the Tarasco Bar and the flashback to the Saragossa Bar. In the very beginning of the film, Steve Buscemi walks into the bar, and the first bar we see is this basically a dive bar. As according to the script, it just says that there's some bar flies in there, and the dealing's being done. It's very dusty and very smoky. So obviously, with the addition of smoky to each one of these pictures, this is kind of what I imagined in my head. The picture on the bottom left, I see just a little bit of neon. Honestly, I don't see much for me anyway in the beginning. I just see truly Mexican dive, and neon signs are expensive. So I kind of covered the neon in the back there, but I do love just like the clutter. I've been to Mexico and I've been to, border towns or even just deeper down into the south, and the bars look like that, just cluttered everywhere. The picture in between the tequila and the bar stools with the vaquero, on the bottom right, I like the graffiti on the actual booths, and the booths are made of wood as well as the wooden bar across from it. I don't like the lights or the lighting in that. I actually like the furniture more in the top left picture with the blue wall. I'm not a fan of the blue wall, obviously, but I would basically combine the furniture from the top left and the clutter from the bottom left to the neon sign, and I really like the the booths in the bar, but I actually like the wall in the back of that center picture. So that would be kind of what I'm looking at, combining all that. The next place is Bucho's Ranch. The script describes Bucho's Ranch as quite literally just a ranch near northern Mexico. And there's parts of northern Mexico that are very jungly. And honestly, when I read that script, I imagine that uh, our hero Mariachi is fighting in a deserty border town as compared to one of those more mountainous towns a little further to the south. Um, that's where I imagine he's out. He's got his ranch out there with his boys and tons of land, and um, it's very well trimmed grass, very beautiful. I imagine that the picture on the top right has that's the roof that I imagine for Bucho's Ranch, and I imagine the land to be more like the bottom right, surrounding the home is more jungly. It's more agave. Um, as for the center picture, that looks like what I would imagine the size of his actual home being, and when we look inside of it, that's what the bottom left is for. The wooden posts and the wooden furniture and the wooden frames for the picture and the wooden roof, like combined with the cobblestone walls, the cobblestone floor, and that half wall right there. It's a great combination that what I imagine to be in the inside. And fun fact, that picture in the center is actually Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. So villains think alike, I guess. Rundown motel. So during the film, the very beginning actually, Steve Buscemi comes to meet Mariachi in a motel room that he's staying out in. Um, it's a motel where he is on the run. He is running for his life, so he's not exactly staying in a five-star resort. So in turn, the beds on the left is what I imagine the beds would be like in this motel, but I actually picture the wall on the top right with the lighting of the bottom right picture, thus giving you that rundown motel. In the script, it says that gleams of light are the only light that comes through the room is from the window through the curtains and blinds. So that's kind of the mood lighting that I'd imagine. Maybe a little brighter, but definitely for sure that wall combined with those beds and that furniture. The streets of Mexican border town. Um, Basically, in the script, it describes the border town as a town that is like the other border towns. It's busy, it's got people on it, but it's definitely not to the caliber of the more party famous ones. So I'd imagine that this is somewhere in between like Juarez and Tijuana, which is, there's numerous little towns all throughout there that, you can drive through. Um, and in the script, it does describe the town's name as Santa Cecilia, but Santa Cecilia is actually more down south. So I just went off of the border town aspect because the border towns do look different than the Mexican villages towards the south. Obviously, in the border towns are going to be a lot more tourists, a lot more people selling stuff to those tourists, a lot more people trying to sell their food, right? And so I see the payphone as well in the script, and I see there's a corner on the street where there is a shoe shiner. So those two things are there, and there's a scene where he's walking through alleyways and such. So I have three alleyways that would be in a border town to me. I imagine it's more to the central, so I put a little bit of mountainous terrain through these alleyways. It just felt better to me. Like the lighting on the left, the top left is what I imagined, but that flat alley is not what I imagined. I actually prefer the terrainy, rocky, kind of wavy paths. This is just a scene where he's bleeding in an alleyway, and I feel like the windiness of it makes it more uncertain. Is he gonna live or is he gonna die? And then obviously those just a couple of roads with people on them, with cars on them, but not busy, like packed busy, like Daytona Beach or something. Obviously, that would have like a bunch of tourism, a bunch of people in it. But this is a small town in Mexico that is not really cared for. So next room would be the hospital, and in the script, it doesn't really do anything to describe the hospital, but I know what Mexican hospitals look like. They're not super grandiose, but they're not the worst in the world. And I saw this picture in the top right. I really like the blanket on those beds. That actually looks like that would be in a Santa Cecilia type town where the hospital is not exactly rich and they don't have a lot of money, so those are their kind of blankets. But I also really enjoyed the aesthetic of the bottom right. It's a child that's in the hospital, so I'd imagine he'd be more in a you know uh, a better room than most of the people in the hospital. I'd probably be in a children's ward or something like that. So that bottom right with those curtains, they feel right to me, and it's in a isolated room as compared to like those stalls of beds. The bottom left, uh, the actual bed itself, that blue cover, I really like that blue cover. And then the top left, I like how there's very minimalistic things on the wall. That's kind of how it is in Mexico. I hate that floor though, so I would definitely not use that floor. It's marble. I don't know why they would put that in a hospital, but yeah. Next is the church, and in the church there are there's a scene where he goes to confess his sins. So again, this is small town, border town, Tex-Mex, USA, Mexico, and these pueblos that I have here. I love the look of the one on the top left, but the one on the bottom left has the better color for me. That darker red stained brick makes me feel more like Mexico in a darker sense, compared to like that pastel-y yellow. Um, that almost makes it feel like it's a happy time Mexico, but the movie we're trying to portray, there's lots of evil, lots of violence, and lots of guns and whatnot. Um, the interiors of these churches would be very minimalistic, so I like the decorating of the top right, but I actually like the chairs more in the center top picture there. The I can't remember what those are called, where you put your knees on them. I don't go to church, people. I'm sorry. Um, and I do know from my uncle who is Mexican and does go to church and has taken me with him. There usually is like in these small town churches, like one or two pieces of like really nice art, and then the rest of it's just pretty minimalistic crosses, maybe a picture of Jesus here and there. And that bottom middle picture presents that really well. But I also love the plants and stuff outside of the church on the right, and I love that bell. If we could find a way to put a bell on top of a church like that, that'd be great. But I'm not even filming this movie, so I don't have to worry about that. Carolina's bookstore is a front for a drug laundering business. I mean, that's really what it is. Um, the guy in charge of the town, of the cartel in that town, he owns the bookstore that Carolina has. So it's a nicer bookstore compared to the rest of the town. It's a bigger building. The script describes it as the books go super high to the ceiling. So, you know, it's kind of incredible almost. Like this place is like a, a place of actual that looks nice compared to the rest of the town, and people can go there to learn and get books. But she doesn't do well business wise, so there would definitely be a lot of books on these shelves, no checkouts, packed shelves. Um, and she also says that she gets money from Bucho to for some space, to use some space in the building. He pays her a ton of money. She doesn't have to go out of business. But she doesn't like that she does that. She wishes that she didn't. So she puts as much love as she can into her bookstore because she keeps trying to convince herself that it's hers. I really enjoy the plants in the bottom right picture there. I would definitely have more vining all over these banisters. I think that's a really good look, considering this bookstore is in that deserty border town. Because, like I said, those border towns super full of sand, like just sand everywhere. And you leave the town and there's more sand until finally you come to some jungle and it's nice. So I think that this bookstore kind of represents a getaway from the rest of the town because uh, Mariachi, he goes to there to get his wounds sewn up. He goes there to fall in love again, to rest. So that's kind of like his safe haven. So it's beautiful. It's got great wooden banisters, really great ceilings. It looks very Pueblo-y in my head. Pueblo-y, is that a word? I don't know. I love that window in the center and the bottom middle, so I definitely try to get that kind of look and the banisters on the middle and the top right pictures. That ceiling art right there is something that I really liked. I saw and I just figured that that would look really cool on the roof of a library. Obviously, you would probably never really get many shots of the ceiling, so that's more so on a big budget kind of film. But it is a double story bookstore in the script, so that bottom left picture, I really like that spiral staircase look, and it feels uh, Mexico Pueblo-y to me. So I that's kind of what I'm going for there. And then finally, her bedroom. I You would actually be kind of surprised how difficult it is to find pictures of just Mexican bedrooms that go along with the motif that I was looking for, but I found these two. I love the furniture in the bottom right, and I love the walls and the curtains in the top left. So the bottom right's furniture has that, really beautiful flowered hand detailing uh, on the headboard, and as well as like what appears to be a changing folding thing that you set up. I don't know what those are called either. I'm not a style interior design person, but um, I love that white furniture, and I think that the colors of the bedroom would match well with that. The only time we see this bedroom is when they have sex and they're in bed together and basically falling in love. So it's got to be a very warm feeling, a loving feeling. That color of the brown on the wall in the bottom right is awful. So I had to find a different picture. That pastel gold is definitely a better choice. And yeah, that is it. Thank you.